Welcome to Booked and Busy, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of your favorite authors one book at a time. Each week, we will dissect bestsellers and explore the stories that have captured our hearts and minds. Whether you're a casual reader or an avid reader, our reviews and conversations will spark your imagination and inspire your next read. Join us as we hear from fellow book lovers and share our insights on themes, conflicts, and hidden gems. On today's special bonus episode, we have a special guest, author Anna Barrington, and today we will be discussing the release of her debut novel, The Spectacle.
In this sharp, edgy, page-turning social thriller, readers get a behind-the-scenes look at the underbelly of the art world. From the high-end art galleries overflowing with champagne and passionate artists to the fraud and perilously high stakes. In real life, the book was in a heated auction of its own, and the cover of the book was exclusively revealed in People magazine. This book deftly intertwines a plot with scathing social commentary, as if Donna Tartt's secret history was set in the universe of HBO's Succession. So now we're going to get into The Spectacle with Anna Barrington, guys. Anna, how are you today?
I'm good. Thanks so much, Tanitra and Adrian, for having me on. I'm really excited to be here.
So I want to start off with what sparked the idea for this book?
So I had been writing a lot of stuff early on, maybe starting around the time when the novel starts, 2017, 2016. When I first started interning in the art world. But most of them were sort of petty rants that I didn't think anyone would want to listen to about, being made to get coffee and stuff like that. Just like your normal first job rants. And it wasn't until 2020, during the pandemic, really, that I was locked in the apartment with my boyfriend at the time. And I didn't have anything to do. So I started thinking, how can I knit some of these experiences around a tabloid story? And so I started finding out these different tabloids about art dealers who had pulled off scams, and not only art dealers, but also like Bernie Madoff. I was really fascinated by that. And using that as sort of the spine of the book, I blended those two things, and it took about 2.5 years from that point.
That's awesome. I thought it was interesting because I was wondering, it does seem like you have a kind of insider's glimpse at the art world, especially the New York scene. And we were talking about it, Adrian and I, how exclusive it must be to actually know what's going on behind the scenes in the art world and all of that. And so it seems you really were involved in that to be able to write from this perspective. So now I get that you were an intern, which is awesome.
I was an intern, but then luckily for the book, I became, an assistant and then a full-time employee. So
for an art museum?
For different galleries and auction houses, yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So you saw some stuff.
I was involved.
This book, it touches on some big themes. What conversations do you hope it sparks?
One of the things I was really interested in thinking about was the Me Too movement, and how we are going to look at that from the perspective of a few years, retrospectively. Because to me, though it was a really, really important social movement in American history, at the same time, there was something a little bit obscene, I felt, in the way women's traumas were commodified at that time. And you just saw it over and over in memoirs that were coming out, think pieces, movies. And that's something I wanted to think about in The Spectacle, and the way Simone decides to do that, to become a celebrity artist.
It answers a question that I had, why you decided to time it based on the era of the 2016 election as opposed to the 2020 or the 2024. But that was the era when all of those stories started to come out, and we dealt with a lot of the Me Too movement, and then started seeing these powerful men who were being exposed and people who hadn't been touched before, really. So I think that this book does a really good job of touching on those things. But that was another question that I had, why you decided to use that era, the 2016 election, as opposed to later on. But that makes a lot of sense to me because that is when a lot of this stuff kind of popped off.
Yeah, it was to do with Me Too. It was also to do with, the first Trump election. Yes. And just the sense of the vast gap between one half of the country and another, which to me was reflected in, I guess, how out of touch certain people in the art world seemed from the realities of working people.
Definitely did a very good job with that.
Thanks. Even though the art, claimed to be changing the world.
I think that's super important, like for anybody who was around during that time or who was of age, like we definitely remember. And so like this book does a good job of revisiting those themes, but from a very exclusive kind of look, you know, like it's from a different perspective. So I thought that was cool.
Thank you. And I feel like one thing I'm just always interested, especially being in London now, it makes me so nostalgic for like the America I knew, even just growing up, because I've been here now for like 7 years. And I had so many amazing times like around 2017. So it's kind of felt like a special and momentous occasion, but it also, now that I look back, something about it felt very fragile and like the end of a certain time and empire and just like the transition into a new phase, which I don't think anybody saw coming.
Definitely agree with you there.
Okay, let's switch gears a little bit. And I want you to talk about the heated auction for the book, as well as People magazine revealing the cover of the book. How was that experience? Because People magazine is it's a very big deal.
So I was certainly really, really happy that the book sold to a major publisher, and it's been amazing to be featured in People. Again, there were moments when I just thought this book was going to be hidden under my bed for my whole life. And, no one would ever read it. So it's kind of crazy and surreal. And anytime like an older male cousin comes in and I know they've read a sex scene in the book, I just want to hide my face.
I'm curious, since I know you said this has kind of been a long time coming with this book. So I want to know, how long have you been, I know we talk about the 2016, that era, but I want to know, how long have you been writing this book, or when was it first thought about?
Sort of the germs of the book started percolating around like 2017, 2018, 2019. But I think the voice of Rudolph was so crucial to the book. And that took me a while to, once I had his voice, I had the whole book. And I just didn't know for a long time how to come up with it. I felt like I needed it to be a man and a woman, because I think one of the things I was really interested in thinking about was power and agency, and I needed a man to have all of the power and agency in this book, as well as a woman, unfortunately. I was also just interested in like what men were doing at that time. So I was reading a lot of like Patricia Highsmith, like Talented Mr. Ripley. And at the same time, I was watching stuff like the Epstein Files and Trump and Anna Delvey on TV. And all of those things kind of just whooshed together in my brain. And one day I woke up and there was just Rudolph and his personality fully formed. And that's when it kind of came together for me.
Anna Delvey and her whole story, that is awesome. I can definitely see themes of that, especially in New York high society and this art collector world. But the way she was able to scheme herself into that, I didn't even pick that up. So mentioning that is very cool. Now I'm rethinking the whole book.
Yeah, that was a crazy story. And she's still around.
She is. She's like kind of climbing back up a little bit.
Yeah, her face looks completely different.
She is doing her thing.
We talked about Rudolph briefly, but I do want you to elaborate a little bit more on his character and, just that charming con man, or this guy who's just trying to keep up his image in a sense. Me and Tanisha had a brief discussion about this yesterday, comparing him to men out in the world. So I do want you to just elaborate a little bit on him some more.
Yeah. Well, I hope that one of the things, I think a lot of people seem to like the book because they have met someone like Rudolph at some point in their lives. I think he is kind of a person who will always appear in your life multiple times, from a distance or up close. In the question of like his relationship with Ingrid, their toxic affair, is kind of a choice that I think a lot of women go through. Like, do you stay with this person who is deeply flawed, maybe loves you, but is horrible, or not? A lot of people stay, and that's one thing I was interested in examining, like the morally ambiguous layers to that, to the decisions about romance that everyone sort of goes through the calculations. For some reason, like, I just loved him, and I could not stop his voice in my head. It felt like I was being possessed. And his passages were so much easier to write than Ingrid's. And in a way, I think it was just because, like, Rudolph is the id. He is all of the desires that, you know, you don't allow yourself to feel, I think, but he is doing it all. And there's something so powerfully seductive about that. Someone who has no boundaries and no morals and is just kind of out to take whatever they want. I think that is like the attraction of such a man to women as well.
Yep, being
Yeah,
charming.
Yes, because we were talking about this and I was actually like, and you kind of tapped on it a little bit, but I was like, I think that's also the appeal that Donald Trump has to a lot of his supporters. And that's how he was able to rally so much support because, like, on the one hand, us on the other side, we're able to see like the flaws and the human. But on the other hand, he didn't get this far for no reason. He is very charming and he knows how to talk. If he knows his audience, he's going to appeal to them. And there's something very charming and seducing to some people, like someone who shows no morals. Like, I have no boundaries. I'm going to go, like, that's seductive to a lot of people. Like, and so that's why he's able to maintain such a strong support base. Like, I don't get it, but I understand how it happens. And so I thought that was a very good, like, kind of relation to him.
And it was something that I was thinking about constantly, and just like that time and, you know, the interregnum of Biden felt like everyone was really, really conscious of sort of like small repressions of speech, or everyone just was very, very conscious of the image they projected and like mainstream liberal culture. And in a lot of ways, I feel like it's good because people were trying to be, you know, educated and trying to be better people and stuff. But I feel like it just unleashed this backlash of people wanting their id to run wild and like wanting
Absolutely
to be free, and wanting to be violent and aggressive. And you have someone come in who is all of these things that you're not allowed to be. And it's very appealing.
Yeah, and Tanisha were overall talking about it yesterday when we were brought up Trump. We were saying at first how when he first announced his presidency or running for presidency, and we were thinking, oh, he's on The Apprentice. I like The Apprentice.
Yeah, like he was okay on The Apprentice.
And it's just like, okay, but we obviously see, okay, you're not fooling anybody, but I can see the appeal or the overall charming, charismatic person he is on The Apprentice or just overall on TV. So we can see how that can be the summary for just a con man.
Yeah, definitely. Like, because
Totally.
it's like he definitely knows how to put on that face and to appeal to the base that he's trying to appeal to. He knows how, like, he taps right into. And I think what you were saying is people, that was a really good point. Like, people wanted to see the id unleashed because it had been buttoned up for so long. And we've been tucked behind like respectability, especially like the Democrats, and like keeping up this facade of like just being perfect all the time and poised and pulled up, and seeing somebody who completely bucked that system. I could see how it appealed to a lot of people, but now it's just broken it completely. So in a way, I guess it was necessary to rebuild from the ground up. That's how I'm trying to see the glass half full, because now we have to start over. And I guess I'm hoping that it helps this country and everybody build from a more authentic place. And that's what I'm hoping that started, you know, just being optimistic. But he definitely unleashed, he allowed everybody to allow their id and their worst inhibitions to fly free. He definitely did.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just agree so much with everything you just said, and I share your hope. But it's tough. I think I was just thinking dark thoughts while writing the book. I think that all these political changes have planted in me, which is that people are so complex, and this time of like fully unleashed id and sort of wildness and aggression and crazy decision making, you see it in so many countries, and it does get to a point where sometimes things burn to the ground before like they get better. And I hope that's not what happens, but it's scary.
Yeah. So leading into that, since you just said it's, you know, it's very frightening, it's very scary. So what part of the writing process with writing The Spectacle surprised you the most when writing this?
There were a lot of things that surprised me. I had never written a novel before, so everything was new, and I needed to tightly outline it, I think, for myself, to sort of give myself guardrails around the subject. And that was helpful. So I guess it surprised me how my imagination expanded to fill in these gaps. And that was a pleasure to see because I've never run a Ponzi scheme. But in other ways, I just discovered, the frustrations and difficulties, but also pride of like trying to craft a sentence over and over and over, 100 times, and how I could just lose a day, but it was still didn't feel like wasted time. So I think it was just about finding my vocation.
I want to know, well, I want to give the audience a little bit of insight. Tell us about a little about collecting art and like the basics people should know about it.
One of the basics is you probably won't make money unless you have a ton of money to start with, or you really, really know what you're doing. But if you collect art like because you love it, then that's a good place to start. Rudolph in the book laughs at that approach, but I think it's a good approach because the art market is so unpredictable and there's so many artists trying to succeed that it's best to establish your own taste, as you like. There are a lot of platforms out there for people wanting to collect art and decorate their house. I think maybe the best place to start was with young graduates, like people who've just gotten out of art school, and they hold graduate shows. Going to those is an amazing way to meet really talented artists before they get big.
For anybody who's interested, it's not undoable. Like, you don't have to be a billionaire to start. She's giving you like the pieces to how you can get yourself into the door, especially if you're passionate about it. So don't count yourself out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the people in the spectacle are trading art like as a crazy investment, but there's art at all price points, and you don't need that kind of money to make a beautiful home and invest in beautiful ideas.
So, leading into this question, what separates the artist who succeeds from one who doesn't?
I think something I saw over and over again in the most successful artists in the art world was kind of monomania, like a strict tunnel vision and ambition. And I saw that on a Jenny Holzer painting. She's this artist I saw at the Glenstone Museum the other day, and it was written on her painting, monomania as a prerequisite for success. And I just thought how true that was, that like the most successful people in any industry, including any creative one, are those who are really ferocious about just sort of casting aside everything else. And that's why you get those biographies, about artists and writers, and they come off as such assholes. Because I feel like sometimes you kind of have to be in order for the art to be fully great and to get all the attention in your life.
I like that take, especially for anybody who's creative or who wants to do anything. Like, monomania is a good word to use for it. You have to be one-track minded. I think that would be your number one. Of course, it's going to come off abrasive to some people, but everyone's not going to see the vision until it's over with. So that's really good advice.
Yeah, unfortunately, it probably won't please your friends or family.
Probably not. They'll see afterwards. And I'm sure that can't be easy also. Like, you have to, as the person who's creating and who's staying focused, because you have to, one, focus on your craft, and also understand that you're putting some other things to the side, and you may not be able to focus as much on your relationships in your life or the other people. But it's not that you don't think that they're important. It's just when you're trying to do something and you're focused on succeeding, sometimes that's what it takes.
Yeah, definitely.
So, a little bit of spoiler alert. What would you say is your favorite part of the book?
Well, what was your favorite part to write? And then what was your favorite moment? Like, you don't have to tell the details, but I would like to know both of those.
The scenes between Ingrid and her friend Simone were really exciting for me to write. I think because although Simone is a kind of secondary character, well, she's like the third main character, that relationship was so important to me in the context of the book, and it allowed me to have them talk about what really mattered to them and how important art was to them, and sort of prioritize that and show how sacred it was to them and how special their friendship was as well. So just kind of like a distinction between the jadedness and disillusionment of all of Rudolph's perspective.
Okay. We talk about friendship a lot in the
We do.
books that we review. So I like that you brought that up because that's very important. Just in TV and in books when people highlight friendships. I like that you highlighted that.
Oh, thank you.
Like we love the moments that like really go into the details of a friendship, or those moments that define a friendship, especially as adults. Like because, you know, like we make friends as children or when we're younger and we just kind of maintain those friendships. But like to solidify your relationships, like those moments where there are moments that really solidify yourself, like, okay, this isn't, we have a bond now. Like things are never gonna be the same and you are on my side now for life. So we highlight all the friendship moments and we do love them very much.
I feel like female friendships especially like are so complicated and can often feel like almost romantic, on the verge of that, which is something I wanted to explore with Ingrid and Simone. And also just the frustration, which I think anyone can experience, but I often saw in the art world of seeing friends succeed without you. And that can be really, really painful.
Yes, definitely. I think as adults, we talk about this a lot that people highlight like relationships with other boyfriends or, you know, just marriages. And yeah, that's important. But I think people have to grasp that having friends is very, very important overall. Just in life, having your tribe with you is just, it's very, I'm not going to say it's underrated, but it's something that needs to be talked about more.
It's just as important as like your partner relationships, definitely.
Totally.
So what's next for you? It's the next book that we can expect, or what are you working on right now?
So right now I'm working on a New England literary mystery, which I'm really excited about a woman investigating the death of her aunt, who was this famous confessional poet.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'm getting very deep into Shirley Jackson and Toni Morrison. So I'm having fun. It's a big departure from the art world.
So I love that. We actually just got into Real had a lot of themes of that where you have to kind of look back in time a little bit. So it deals with characters who are right now and now they're investigating kind of and going down a rabbit hole of things that happened decades and decades ago. And so you're just discovering all these things. And so that's definitely going to be interesting. We're going to look out for it.
Oh, thank you. I feel like the legacy of the past is something that people in America are thinking a lot about right now. I am thinking a lot about. And yeah, I feel like all of my books are kind of a reflection of like things that are happening culturally in a way. And it's something I'm thinking about now.
Great. Anna, can you tell everyone where to follow you and where to catch up with you for updates for the future?
Yeah, so I have a website, annabarrington.com. And you can also follow me on Instagram, Anna Barrington Campbell.
Okay, great.
We will link that in our bio.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
So that concludes our interview with Anna Barrington. Make sure you guys check out The Spectacle. It is interesting and you will not be disappointed. And make sure you follow her on socials and be sure to keep up with her so you can be in the loop for her next book. That's it for this episode and we will see you guys next time. Thank you. Bye.